All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another session um, of the TCS NQT. Thank you so much for everybody for being patient and being online. It started just about 10 seconds late, but thanks everybody for being online, and welcome everybody to another session of this TCS NQT where we discuss something on NQT and Ninja. So there is about only 2 days left. So today is Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then after that, Saturday and Sunday are our TCS Ninja test. That is the national qualifier test for TCS Ninja. So I hope everybody is preparing well for that one. I hope that your preparation is coming along well. Today's session that we're going to do is going to be a very special session on programming MCQs. And as I started to get deeper into it, I realized that it's not just going to be one session. We are going to break it down into two sessions. So today's programming MCQs will cover some of the topics, and then some of the other topics which I feel conceptually you need more time to understand, I'll be covering tomorrow. So today and tomorrow we will be covering the programming MCQs. And for those of the students who've been watching for some time, you know that every day we are doing this webinar series, and every day we are covering up some new topics, and we are not going to end just with these MCQs. On Friday we'll do a marathon where we'll solve a lot of problems. Saturday, Sunday is your NQT, and from Monday we are back at it again. Monday, Tuesday we'll be back at it again. We'll be starting other companies because your life doesn't stop after NQT. Your life doesn't stop after the TCS Ninja test. You will have more and more companies coming. This is the time for placements. Don't stop your preparation right now. Your preparation should completely be till you get a job. In fact, till you get multiple offers. That's what you should be going for. So that's what I would suggest for everybody, that stay tuned to this. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, because once you subscribe you will start getting notifications. I saw a lot of people online today because they got the notifications. So do subscribe to this channel, and once you subscribe you will get the notification of whatever webinar we're doing. We're going to do a lot many more webinars on different topics. So without further ado, today's topic is on the programming MCQs. So today it's mostly going to be more of a theoretical discussion compared to the last few times. So it's going to be more of a theoretical discussion, and I'm going to cover 2-3 very important concepts. The first thing to realize, this is the slide I use every time where I've been talking about all of the different concepts that will come in the NQT test, that is Ninja, right? So very quickly, for those of you who are new, and probably if you've just started your preparation, I'll just tell this to you, that there are these 4 sections. So I'll just take 2 minutes to cover these, and then we'll get to the actual topic of today. We have English, quants, programming MCQs, and coding. In the last few days, that I think in the last 5 or 6 webinars, I've just been discussing coding questions, and the reason for that is coding questions account for 30 marks, at least as per last year's um, pattern. So as per last year's pattern, it was 30 marks, the coding question. So, and there's only one. So it's not like you can skip this one, go to the next one. You have to clear this one. If you don't clear this one, 30 marks gone right out. If you don't clear the coding test, I think that your probability of getting through to next round will be very difficult. The next part that is very difficult is the programming MCQs, because in coding you can use any language you want. You can use Java, C++, Python, any language you want, that's fine. I think Perl option is also there. But in programming MCQs, majorly they're focusing on C programming, that is C syntax, and I'll share some of the topics with you. But here there may or may not be negative marking. Please read the instructions carefully of the section. And the idea is you have to get good marks in all of the sections. So even English quants, I hope, please do the last minute revision on this one, like tomorrow, day after. That's what you should be spending time on. You have only few days left, so please make sure you do last minute revision on English and quants. But for each of them you should be getting some amount of marks, because there could be sectional cutoffs. So let's say you got 30 on 30 here, 13 on 13 over here, but if you got 0 and 0, maybe you clear the cutoff, but you're still not clearing the sectional cutoffs. So make sure that you're clearing the sectional cutoffs. Without the sectional cutoffs, even though you might have good marks, you might still be not getting up to the marks that are required. So please make sure that you are concentrating on these topics also. The topic for today's webinar is specifically this programming MCQs. So those of you who are still weak at coding, who have not done a basic coding on an online compiler, please make sure that you first do the coding part and then come to programming MCQs, because today everything I will discuss is actually slightly confusing. So you are going to have some sort of C programming concepts that I'm going to tell you, and the worst part is none of these concepts you will use in the actual programming. So the concepts that you use over here, that is the concepts that you use in programming MCQs, will never be used in your coding, hardly ever. So please, those of you who are joining me first time, make sure that you think of programming MCQs separately and you think of coding separately. Don't think that, oh, I will do programming MCQs, whatever I learn will help me in writing the code. It will help, whatever you learn in coding will help you read the code in programming MCQs. So whatever you learn in the fourth section will help you in the third section, but all of the exceptions that we are learning today in the third, don't try to apply them in the fourth section. Just stick to your normal logic of all of the coding questions. So all of those who have come for the first time, make sure that you are doing all of the coding questions, all of the practice coding questions first, and then you go to the programming MCQs. And just to again show it to you, those who are coming for the first time, we have this thing called the complete coding pack. So the link for that is over here. You can just check the link over here. It's bit.ly/edyst_ccp. So that would be over here in this link. Sorry, yeah, that's the link over here, bit.ly/edyst_ccp. So let me just show you how you can log in into this. I'll just show that to you and then we'll move on to the session for today. Yeah, so this is what we have. You will see this thing called complete coding test and interview preparation pack on the Edyst platform. When you click start now, you will see all of the details of this. This pack is not only for the NQT, but it is also for the other companies like Wipro, Capgemini, CGI, Cognizant, all of the other companies. Click apply now, and once you click apply now, you enter your details and things like that. Then you are going to get this pack. In this pack, in this TCS previous year's questions is what you will get all of the previous year's questions of TCS. We have the programming MCQs also. Those of you who don't have it, just after the webinar you will get these programming MCQs on your platform, but these are the previous coding questions. So make sure that you complete all of these coding questions before you even start the programming MCQs, because whatever you learn here will help you when you are doing the so whatever you learn here will help you whenever you're doing the MCQs, but whatever you learn in the MCQs is not really going to help you in the coding section. So that's just a small introduction from my side, and without further delay, let's head in directly into the programming MCQs. So the programming MCQs that we have are separated into these things. As I was researching more, I found out even some more topics that you should be preparing for. So generally all of the questions are divided into these topics, that is minus, minus, plus, plus, that is, this is increment, decrement, and then there's something called a comma operator. There is scoping in C. There is associativity, pointers, order notation, searching, sorting. Those of you who want to note this down can note this down. Now the major thing is these three things I'll cover tomorrow. So please subscribe to the channel. You will get the notification for when and where we are doing this. It will be on YouTube, but when we are doing this, you will get the notification. So please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel so you'll get the notification for this. The reason I separated this out was we believe that pointers in itself will take you some time to understand. It conceptually it's a little different. I don't want to just give you tips and tricks. I want to actually help you understand the question. So we'll get the C pointers to be done tomorrow and we'll do it a little bit more in detail. Today we'll do these questions and we'll look at some 3-4 questions over here. The idea today is not to cover as many questions as possible. That's not the idea today. The idea is that you understand these concepts, and to actually go in depth, what you can do is you can go to the Edyst platform, and we have more than 6 sets, and when I say 6 sets, there are about 10 questions each. So there are about 60 MCQ questions, all previously asked NQT. In fact, all from last year's NQT itself, they are all there. So once you log on to the Edyst platform, you will get all of these MCQs also. So the idea is to discuss some of the concepts today, and once you actually go understand the concepts, please go and do the questions. In all of these questions, we have not only the question but also the explanation also. For example, I was just attempting something earlier, so if I view my previous attempt, I can see some of the questions and let me just show you 1 second. Yeah, so it has not only the correct question, correct answer, but it also has the explanation. So the explanation is completely mentioned over here why the answer is correct or wrong. This will help you in correcting your mistakes, and once you've realized that you've done it better, you've understood it, just click start new test and you can start the test also. So I highly suggest the way to prepare for programming MCQs is please watch my webinar. This webinar done by us, we will have a conceptual understanding of all the concepts, and once we have understood the concepts, please go and practice on the Edyst platform in the programming MCQs part of TCS. Without this kind of practice, you will never understand the concepts properly. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, none of the questions you should do without in your mental maths. Okay, write down the question, write down. So in the exam also, please ask for rough paper. Pen and paper is the best way, right? Don't ever do mental maths. Okay, don't do mental maths over here. Write it down, try to figure it out very specifically. Some questions will seem very out of the world, like, oh, is this even possible in C? So make sure you compile on your local compiler also and check it out. When I say compile, you should compile with some differences. So I'll show you that example also. Like, there will be a question with a certain way of plus plus, certain way of minus minus. You should be able to compile it with some more variations and see, oh, how the output is changing. So because the same question is not going to be asked again, the same concept is going to be asked. So if you don't get the correct concept, you're not going to understand how to solve the question. So to get the concept, watch the webinar now, then try to implement some of these on your programming console. The reason being, you can change it, change the semicolon, change the comma somewhere, do all of these things, see how the output changes, note all of these things down. Your curiosity is the best way to learn. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do today, the topics we're going to do today are these ones. That is the comma operator, the increment, decrement, and associativity. Increment, decrement, I mean the plus plus and the minus minus. Whatever rules are there for plus plus generally apply for minus minus also. Associativity, I'll come to what it means and everything. And comma operator is the first thing that we're going to look at. So many of you may not know, but the comma is both an operator as well as a separator when it comes to C, right? So what do I mean by an operator and a separator? Well, an operator and a separator, right? Okay, so this could be a trick question, like which of these are an operator and a separator? So the answer would be comma. So for example, if you remember, whenever you're defining a function, let's say, how would you define a function? It would be something like void sum int a comma int b, right? So over here, this comma is not operating on anything. This comma is just separating all of the arguments of this function sum, right? That's what it's doing. It's just separating all of the arguments of the function. So you have int a, then you have a comma, and then you have int b. At this point, it is acting like a separator, okay? There are places where it acts like an operator, and let's have a look at that example. Let's say you have the following three examples, right? You have int a is equal to 1 to 3. You have int a and then a equal to 1 to 3, and you have int a equal to bracket 1 comma 2 comma 3. All these three are different and they will give you a different output. The output of this will be different, will be different, will be different. What is this difference between all of these outputs? Well, what's happening here, int a equal to 1 to 3, here it will treat the comma as a separator, and having a separator in this statement doesn't make any sense. So here you will get error. Okay, now you might be thinking, well, what's the difference between this statement and this statement? Generally, if you're doing something like int a equal to and then the commas, it's going to treat as a separator. If that's a separator, that is not compatible with this statement, it's going to go to an error. Now here int a is already defined. What it's going to do is it's going to treat this comma as an operator. Okay, now what the comma operator does is, I'll tell you, it will be more obvious in the next one, but basically speaking, it's going to treat it as an operator. Now just to revise your concepts, if you remember, operators themselves have precedence. What does that mean? Well, if you have in one statement, if you have a divide, a multiply and a plus, then your divide and multiply are going to be given higher precedence than your plus and minus. So if you have something like, let's say 7 into 2 plus 3, then 7 into 2 is going to be first calculated, which is 14, plus 3, which is 17. 2 plus 3 is not going to be first calculated. So the answer of this is not going to be 35. That is not going to be the answer. So because the asterisk, which is the multiplication, has a higher order of precedence than the plus. So first these two things happen. Similarly, in this case, there are two operators. What are those operators? There is a comma operator, which has same precedence, obviously these two, and there's an equal to operator. Now remember this thing and remember it, like memorize it. The comma operator has the lowest precedence of any operator. So the comma will always come at the last. So the comma operator will be the last one always. In this case, what happens is you get equal to operator having the higher precedence. So you have a equal to 1. So it gets treated like this, comma 2, comma 3, right? So over here, what's going to happen is a value will be equal to 1, because a equal to 1 will happen first, then 2 will happen, then 3 will happen. The comma operator is, you can say, almost like a semicolon, where what the comma operator does is it's going to, after 1 is done, it's going to execute the next few statements also. Now, as I was saying, nobody uses this in the actual C programming. Nobody will actually do this while they're doing C programming. But this is a trick question to ask you in the programming MCQs. So what you would get is a equal to 1, comma 2, comma 3. Generally speaking, what would have happened is, which we'll see in the next one, whatever is in the commas, it will keep getting executed. But because you have an equal to operator that has a higher precedence, so you first have a equal to 1, then you have 2, then you have 3. Okay. Now the second case, in this case, again I will want to give you the example of this multiplication over here, right? If you had 7 into 2 plus 3, you would do 14 plus 3, which is 17. But imagine if you had 7 into brackets 2 plus 3. Let's say you had something like this, 7 into brackets 2 plus 3. Then your answer will be 35, correct? Your answer is then going to be 35. Why is it going to be 35? Because brackets are a way of elevating the precedence. It tells the compiler that this is the first thing that has to be evaluated, and then do whatever else you want to do. So 2 plus 3, if put in a bracket, are going to be evaluated first, and that is going to then be multiplied by 7. What does that have to do with our comma operators? Well, look at this third example. We had this first example, this was the second example. Let's look at the third example. Here int a equal to 1, comma 2, comma 3. In this case, even though equal to has a higher precedence, what you have over here is you have a bracket. So that means that these three are going to be executed first, and then a is going to be executed. So what is happening here? 1 gets executed, 2 gets executed, 3 gets executed. We have only 3 left. A equals to 3. Or another way of checking it is, right, that whenever you're given a list like this, what will happen is without brackets, with brackets, the last element is taken. Without brackets, the first element is taken. So if you want a tip or trick in a comma operator question, without a bracket, choose the first element. With a bracket, choose the last element. All right. So here the value of a is 3. Here the value of a is 1. Okay. So I hope you understood all the 3 examples. And here, because it was being used as a separator, that's the first one. Here it will give us an error. So at this point, we are getting an error. So these are 3 things. I hope you understood the comma operators part. Let's look at a sample question. And just before I go to sample question, do share this video with your friends so that they also can watch this important MCQ session. Anyways, let's look at a sample question. This uses the comma operators. So we have the comma operator over here. Int a comma x is equal to 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5. Now just look at over here. Here int a comma x, this is nothing but a separator, and here we have the operators, right? As I said before, the common example you can use is it's in the brackets. So bracket, we pick up the last element, which means both a, like I said, please make sure that you are using a pen and paper and writing down the values a and x. A is 5, x is 5. Then what happens? A equal to 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5. It's no brackets, we take the first element. So this becomes 1 and this becomes 5, right? And then we print x and a, that's mod d x and a. Incidentally, just a side note, here again comma is a separator, not an operator. Anyways, when we print this, the answer will be 5 1. That's the answer for this question. You'll be given many options over here, and that's the thing about MCQs, they'll confuse you. But generally speaking, if you have your concepts correct, you don't need to be guessing at this point. Okay, you just need to be adding these questions. All right. Sorry, what I meant to say was you just need to get the concepts and you just need to compute the answer and you'll get the answer. Okay. Let's look at another question of the similar comma operators. Okay. Not the comma. This is something to do with the increment and decrement. All right. So 2 things over here that we're going to discuss at the same time. And let's get back to our topics so that I'll help you out here. we have something, we discuss about the comma operators. For more questions on the comma operator, just go to the Edyst website, click on the TCS question, and you will get the previous MCQs. And there are many comma operator questions there. The thing I want to discuss right now is increment, decrement, and associativity. And what do I mean by associativity? Associativity means the order in which it's going to be computed. Okay, and for that, what I just suggest is go online, search for associativity of operations. Every operator and operation has their own associativity range. So associativity rule, rather, not a range. And let me just give you an example. Second. So this is I just found on the internet, and you can just search and you will also get this. So here you have nothing but let's say you are looking at arithmetic operators. So every multiplication, divide, modulus, it happens from left to right. Like when you have 9 by 2, that is 9/2, it is always 9 divided by 2. It's not 2 divided by 9. So that's what is called a left to right associativity, right? Similarly, add, subtract is left to right. Okay, some of them are right to left, and the important ones that we have to check are something like this. One second, I'll give you, like increment and decrement. These happen right to left, they don't happen left to right. Okay, so you should first do the right part and then go to the left. That's how you should be doing it. Okay, similarly, the relational operators are all left to right. Okay, let's look at the bitwise operators. All of them are left to right. Okay, why did this come up? If we look at some of just the next example that we were doing, right? One second. Yeah, so if we were just going to the next example that we're going to do, yeah, so we have over here this huge slightly complicated statement over here. Now in this complicated statement, what's actually going to happen? Are we going to first do all of the plus and then we're going to do all the and, or really what's going to happen over here, right? So in this case, what's going to happen is we have it as the plus also and the and also, and what we just checked was and, that is a bitwise, is nothing but it is from okay, so this was the bitwise. Let's check the logical operators. So the logical operators are also from left to right. So these ands will happen from left to right. But what's going to happen is the increment and decrement are going to happen from right to left. Okay, so which is nothing but we are first going to compute plus ai, then do and with plus j, then do and with plus k, right? That's what we're going to do. Now I value over here is 10, which means this plus I becomes 11, and j value over here is 2, so this will become 3, and k value is 0, it will be 1, so it becomes 11 and 3 and 1. Notice that I value has itself updated, j value itself is updated, k value itself is updated. So when you just print this out, we still have to figure out what the value of m is, but here these three are 11, 3 and 1, right? So these three are for certain. If you are in an MCQ, if you see if there is just one option with these first three, just choose that, you're done. But what would m be? M will be the and of all of these things, right? And what is the and of this? Again, a simple trick is 1 over here will help us out. If you know the representation of 1, it is 0 0 0 0, how many were bits, and then you have 1 over here. So now no matter whatever you have as and above this, all of them with 0 are going to become 0 anyways. It's only this one that is going to be left over here, and since all of these are odd numbers, their last bit will always be set, like 3 and 11 both will be set. So in that case, 1 and 1 and 1, it will be 1. So m also will be 1. If you did understand what I just said, please go and revise a little bit about bitwise, about binary numbers, because that is what's going to happen over here in this logical test. But the simple trick to check what the value is going to be is, we know it's and, so any zeros are going to just take out all of the ones. Because we have 1 over here, anything after 1 at this point is going to be zeros, so you just do and of zeros all the way, so this entire part becomes 0. The only thing we have to worry about now is this one. If there is any 0 over here above it, then this will also become 0. But the point is, there will not be any zeros because this is not an even number. So over here there is no even number, they are all odd numbers, hence it will be 1. So it will be 11 3 1 1. Okay, so that's one of the questions about associativity. Let's look at a little bit more about increment and decrement operators. So this is a very famous example. I'm sure all of you must have thought of this, done this before. But how does this statement actually work, right? So how does this statement actually work over here? Now, all of you who've been preparing seriously for NQT, I'm sure this will seem very easy, but still let me explain it a little bit. This over here is pretty simple. Int a equal to 5. You're just assigning 5 to a. Okay, all done. Great. Here, what's happening? So in a plus plus, this is called a post operator or post increment operator. It's not a pre-increment, it's a post increment operator. And the same thing would apply to a minus minus also. What will happen is first a will go to x and then a will increase. So first over here again, if you maintain a and x, at the end of this statement, x will be 5 and a will be 6, because first a was assigned to x and then a got plus plus. Then x is equal to plus plus a. Now it gets interesting. When it's plus plus a, first plus plus will happen, so a becomes 7 and then it gets assigned to x, so it will become 7. Why is this important for us? Why is this sequence important? Let's say if you are going to print over here, if you are going to print x over here, at this point both of these, int x is equal to a plus plus and x is equal to plus plus a, doesn't matter. We know that this is increasing by 1, this is increasing by 1, so print x has to be 7, right? That's okay if you are going to print x here. But what happens if you are going to print x after this statement, right? What's going to happen at this point? At this point, if you're going to print x, the answer will be 5. And generally speaking, your programming MCQs are going to ask you when to print x here, not to print x here, because printing x here, 7 is a pretty obvious answer, but what's the intermediate value? And generally you need to know the values at each and every step. Don't try to guess what will happen at the last step, because all of your questions are going to depend on what's happening in the intermediate steps. Okay, so let's look at one of the questions and see, and let's try to solve it ourselves. Okay, so what would be the answer over here? Okay, this is a very famous example. Like this is the kind of question you are mostly going to get in your NQT, and this is sort of, this is picked up from last year's NQT as well. So I'll give you about a minute. Think of what the answer could be. I'll also try to compute and let's see what the answer is. Okay. So take a minute, try to solve it by yourself, write it down, see how it will work. Okay. So we're given int a equal to 10 x. Now we have to do a minus minus plus 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 a. What's really going to happen over here? So what's going to happen is first a minus minus will execute, right? So you have 9 plus, then you'll have plus plus a executing first, so you have 11, right? Is that what's happening? No, that's not what's happening. Let's think of what's actually happening over here. Okay, so so what you're going to have first is you're going to take this a value, that's 10, all right, then it's going to go minus minus, so a value will become 9, then over here it will become plus plus, so it will become 10, then it will give you 20. I believe this is the answer. Let's look at it once again, and as I said, this is the confusing part. So over here what's happening is we are going from left to right, right? So we have a minus minus plus 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 a. That is what is happening over here. So when it's a minus minus, what are we going to do? We're first going to take the a value, right? And so that is 10. Now we'll update the a value as 9. So the a value is now 9. That is our a value. But we took the 10 for the addition, because at the time of taking the value, we will take the a value. So we took the a value, which was 10. Then a itself got reduced to 9. That's great. Then when we come to plus plus a, we first increment the a value and then take the a value. So in the case of minus minus, because it was afterwards, we first took the a value and then decremented it. But in this case, we are first going to increment it and then take it. So what does this mean? We are going to do plus plus a, it will become 10. So 10 plus 10 is equal to 20. I'll just repeat that because that might have been confusing to some people. So let me just repeat that once again. Okay. And let me just erase everything so that we can start. All right. So what am I saying over here? Well, in this x is equal to a minus minus plus 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 a, what's actually happening? Whenever we have a minus minus, this means that we'll first take the value of a and then do minus minus. So we first took the value of a, which was 10, then a value has been updated to 9 plus 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 a. In the case of plus plus a, we will first increment the value of a to 10 and then take the value. So it is 10 and 10. When you add 10 plus 10, you will get 20. This is what the answer will be. At any point, like I said, this is one of those questions where if you are getting confused, if you're not sure what's actually happening at any point, try to actually do the compilation yourself. At every step in that compilation, try to print out the value of a and x and see what's happening. Again, the best way of learning this is the way I learned it, is by just blocking 2 hours and 3 hours. Open your C compiler, C++ compiler, and every possible combination of minus minus plus plus multiplication division, try to do them and try to learn all of these things. But don't just do them, write them down on pen and paper. That is the best way to learn any of these minus minus and plus plus things. Okay, all right. Let's look at another question. Okay, this is another concept. It's called scoping in C. So we were discussing these three concepts. I forgot to add the other concept, which is scoping. So we are discussing scoping as well right now. Scoping is a pretty simple concept, and I think we are just about out of time. So we are going to wrap it up by understanding the scoping concept. And scoping is an easier concept to understand, but expect at least 1 or 2 questions to come from scoping. So once you're understood scoping, I think 1 or 2 marks you can easily get in the NQT. So what does scoping mean? Scoping means nothing but let me just open up a new slide and show you. So scoping means you have a certain program, right? And you have certain variables. So let's say you define some variable int a, let's say. Okay, now till where all is this int a valuable? In fact, if I did int a is equal to phi, this a refers to phi value is there till some extent. In C, what you can do is you can create a scope for this variable, which means nothing but if you create an empty block like this, okay, and if you created another variable like this, int x is equal to 7, right? What's going to happen is this x is not accessible outside. It is accessible inside. So this is the inner block. But in the outer block, this one is not accessible. But a is accessible in the inner block because it was declared in the outer block. So far so good. We're good here. It's like a private little block over here. That is, int a is equal to 5. We have other stuff happening here. But in this block, we want to do some private stuff which the outer block doesn't want to get done. Why would you want to do it? Again, it's one of those features. You may or may not use it, but it's one of those features of C. So you have this inner block over here. So far so good. The problem comes is a is accessible inside, all great. So if we do a is equal to a into 10, we know that a value over here is 50. Okay, so far so good. The problem comes here is if instead of int x is equal to 7, if we had kept it as int a is equal to 7, right? Now what happens? There are 2-3 options we have. Is it an error? Is it something else? Is it like a runtime error, or is this even possible? Is it a compile time error? What will happen? So the good news is, or probably the bad news, is that it's not an error. This is where scoping comes in. These are the rules of scoping. The rules of scoping is that the outer variable is accessible to the inner blocks, but only till the time that another variable with the same name is not declared. That is, the moment we make this int a equals to 7, this a becomes a new variable and the outer a stops being accessible to us. That is, the outer a is no longer accessible to us. It's the inner a that we will be continue to be using over here. So when we do a equal to a into 10, a over here will become 70. If we were to print in this inner block, if we were to print a, we will get 70. But in the outer block, again, if I have to print a, I will get 5. Because to the outer block, it doesn't know what happened inside, right? A stopped having any scope inside because we declared int a equal to 7, and so outer block it will be 5. Let's look at an example. This is a more refined version of what I was speaking about. So what we have over here is int a equal to 20. Since we didn't define any other a inside the inner block, we have over here the answer as 20. That is, when it prints a, it will be 20. But over here, int a equal to 20, int a equal to 40. Notice this a has now overridden this previous a. That is, because of this new a, the old a scope ends. So the old a no longer comes here because its scope is ended. Okay, then we print a. At this point, a's value is 40, then a's value is 20. All right. So let's look at a previous year's question that was exactly using the same concept over here. Int var is equal to 20. If you print over here, it's going to be 20. Int var is equal to 30. If you print here, it will be 30. And then again, if you print, notice that this var is not the one inside the inner block. So to us, this inner block is dead, it's not relevant anymore, but the outer block is relevant. So the outer block again is 20. So the answer for this would be 20, 30, 20. And notice there are commas also, so there would be certain commas. So just recapping, there were three concepts that we went today, and we are sort of out of time, so I'll just wrap up. So there were three concepts that we went through today. We went through the concept of scoping, we went through the concept of increment decrement operators, we went through the concept of associativity, and we started the concept with comma operators. So four concepts overall that we have done. I know it can be very confusing to a lot of you right now. These might be just new concepts. A lot of you are students who did C programming in their first year. We generally don't discuss such exceptions in the first year, and suddenly all of these exceptions come up. Don't worry about it. What I will suggest everybody to do is go through this webinar once again, recall all of the concepts that we have discovered, and this concept that we discovered is just the tip of the iceberg. There will be so many more exceptions in these concepts, so go ahead and read up. The internet is full of these kind of exceptions out there, so make sure that you read up as many possible exceptions on these concepts as possible. The best way to do that is practice the previous year's questions, which are available on the Edyst platform. So the previous programming MCQs are all available on the Edyst platform. Once you do that, you will receive certain explanations for the questions. To get the deeper explanation, search online and keep tweaking the questions so you get a better feel for how the questions are actually, how the concept actually works, because the more you tweak them, the better you will get at understanding them. So if I were you, what I would do is tomorrow block 2 or 3 hours, and just 3 hours do all of the programming MCQs and keep tweaking some of them. This is the given example. Oh, but what if they had changed the comma to a bracket? What would happen? Keep tweaking, keep doing, and you will start getting the answers, right? So there is no straightforward way to do this. If you just practice the previous MCQs without doing any of the concepts, you will just memorize the old MCQs, but that will not at all be helpful. What you need to do right now is understand these comma operators logic, the associativity logic, the scope logic, and the increment decrement logic till tomorrow. And tomorrow we are going to do the pointers and all of those logic. So all of those students who've been waiting patiently for questions, I'm now going to take the question answer session. So we'll take the team has been online, and we'll take some of the questions that you have. And just before I forget, please make sure you subscribe to this channel, because tomorrow and day after we're going to do some really rigorous NQT revision just like today. So please make sure that you subscribe to this channel so that you will also get the notification of the upcoming webinars that we're going to do. All right, so without much ado, I'll just wait for the questions from the team.
So Sujit is asking, you said in the increment and decrement takes from the right to left, but in the question 4 you said from left to right. May I know the difference between these?
All right, so what the increment and decrement operators do. So somebody was asking the increment decrement, we mentioned right to left, but left to right, what's happening? So the difference you have to understand is between what's happening in the sense of which operator is being applied. So if I just go back to the slides, in this case, so that question that we were discussing, I guess it was this one. One second, no, sorry, it was this one. Yeah. So in this case, what's happening is this plus is being applied from left to right. That is what I meant to say. So over here, this increment of this plus will be applied, and that plus you will have left to right. That is a minus minus, and then plus plus a. Why is this important? This is important because we are not doing, so for example, let's say x is equal to 7 plus 2, right? The way you are going to do x is equal to 7 plus 2 is that you'll do 7 plus 2. Okay, this is really important. It might seem very simple to you, like x is 9. This exactly the same problem comes when you do x is equal to a minus minus plus plus a. Now in this, what should you be doing first? Should you be doing a minus minus? Should you be doing plus a first? That's why it says you do a minus minus first, and then you do plus a, because plus is from left to right. Okay, now when you will do a minus minus first, should you take a or should you take minus minus? That is what I was talking about as increment and decrement. So just read up on that part, you'll get it. But a minus minus will happen first, and then plus a will happen.
So, one person is asking, while explaining scoping, you gave an explanation about the inner braces and outer variables. Is it related to global and local variables?
Okay, a very good question. So someone's asking in the scoping, I had given the example of so where is scoping? Just let me pick up scoping. Yeah, in scoping I had given the example of local and global variables in a sense that outer and inner variables. So the global and local is not what I'm talking about over here. That's actually a separate concept. It is slightly related, but generally when you do global and local, what you're trying to say is local to a function and local to a method versus global to the entire program. This here is within a program, you could have multiple local variables, each one of them being in a different scope. So what you will have is, technically speaking, let's say this entire thing is in the main. Now these are not global variables. Like this a outside in the outer block is not a global variable. It is a local variable to the main method, but it doesn't have scope inside over here the moment we declare a new variable. So these are both local variables, and this scoping that I'm talking about is different from the global and local variable.
Yeah. A couple of quite a few people who joined the webinar a little late are asking, can you just quickly give us the list of topics on which MCQs will come?
Okay, so for the people who joined late, what are the list of topics on which MCQs will come? So let me just pull up that page. So as per our research, what we've seen from previous years, this is generally the previous year's pattern on what has come, and we discussed these three today. That is minus minus plus plus comma operators, scoping, associativity. You will get questions on order notation, on searching, sorting, and C pointers also. We covered this part, the first three, but the 4, 5, 6 we're going to cover tomorrow. So this is the topics of the programming MCQs. In case you missed it, just pause at this point, and also the entire webinar is recorded, so you can always go back, rewind, and check as well.
And of
Oh,
course,
sorry, one second. So let me just repeat it again because I think I was not on the correct slide. So everybody, what everybody was asking was, can we repeat the previous? What are the topics that were asked in the previous? What are the topics we should prepare for programming MCQs? This is the slide. Please just note this down. You can pause here, or you can always record. So you can always go back into the left and just rewind and check. But these are the three topics we covered today, and 4, 5, 6 is what we're going to cover tomorrow.
and of course, TCS has the right to revise. And
Yeah, and obviously this is just our analysis of the previous year's questions. Don't say that, oh, you said only this will come. TCS will keep throwing up new questions. That's their job, to come up with new questions. They could come up with new concepts. So as long as you're thorough with your programming, that's why I say do the coding first, then come to the programming MCQs. As long as you're thorough with your coding, you're going to do very good at your. You'll at least know all the concepts of programming MCQs. And so for getting the being there on tomorrow's webinar, just make sure you subscribe, so you will get the notification for tomorrow's webinar also. Click the subscribe button, it's there. Yes.
okay, Bhagishri is asking, when dealing with operators and and decrement, is there a rule that we should first have to give preference to post an decrement, irrespective of the association it has with the operator?
Okay, so Bhagishri, very good question on, and it is one of the most confusing questions that is part of this C programming. So I will not. So the question basically is that, is it a rule that we should always first do the pre-increment and then do the post-increment? What is the rule? The best rule that you can go ahead with all of this is lots and lots of questions that to do, and actually just do it on your C compiler yourselves. Like, I can give you a very generic rule, but all of the questions that you're being asked are exceptions. So make sure you do as many practice questions, and you will get a feel for what's happening at that point. Theoretically, there is an associativity, but they are not going to ask you as per the theoretical way. So the associativity, it's actually pretty simple. You just go and look up the associativity. But what you need to do is go through as many practice MCQs as possible. Only then you'll get the feel of which one is executed first and which one is executed later. Right. Okay, so I think that's about it for the question answers. I know this was a confusing, but I hope it was worthwhile to all of you. So if you liked the session, please just leave it on the chat session that you liked it, so we know, we'll get feedback on how it went. And for getting the all of the TCS MCQs, make sure that you log into the complete coding test and interview prep pack, which is mentioned below, bit.ly/edyst_ccp. Click on TCS and you'll get all of the previous year's questions, and just go ahead and practice all of those. I think we have time for one more.
Yeah. So in fact, a couple of more.
Okay, so two more questions
have
before we wrap up.
Have just come up. You just mentioned about what they can expect in tomorrow's webinar. What are other webinars other than that?
Okay, so so tomorrow's webinar we're going to talk about pointers and order notation and those things. So do attend that and subscribe so you'll get the notification. But what are the webinars apart from that? Well, for NQT we are going to do one more. That's on Friday. It's going to be more of a marathon thing. And Saturday, Sunday it's your NQT, so we'll not have any webinar specific to NQT. From Monday onwards, the next national qualifier that's happening is mostly Wipros. So once we get a confirmation on that, Monday onwards we will start webinars on those as well. And once that is over, we'll probably do something on AMCAT because they will then be coming to your campuses and hiring. So sorry, they'll be hiring on behalf of other people. So we'll have a lot of these webinars happening every day. So the exact schedule of that is NQT till the end of this week, Wipro next week, and after that AMCAT. So we'll be mixing and matching a lot of these. I think the schedule will be putting up soon anyways, but be just be prepared that every day around this time is when we do the webinar. And if you if you have doubts and questions that you want to ask apart from this webinar, just log on to the Edyst platform. I am online, the Edyst mentors are online, and they're more than happy to help you. Just sign up for one of our courses and you will get support from our mentors for those courses.
One last question with regards to this. If we have to allocate our time between MCQs and coding, how much time should we spend? Because we are just left with a couple of days.
Okay, so we're left with a couple of days. We're left with 2 days. And how much time should we spend between coding and programming MCQs? So first thing I'd say is congrats to all engineering students. I think every engineering student is always left with 2 days and the entire syllabus to cover. Don't worry, I was also an engineering student, so I know how you feel. What I would suggest is the first thing you do is do the coding, because the coding is 30 marks. The coding is just one question. If you get it correct, you get it correct. If you get it wrong, it's completely zero. Programming MCQs, still, if there's no negative marking, you'll do some guesswork and you can get through. If you've not done any of programming MCQs and coding, focus on the coding. Don't go to the MCQs. Leave the MCQs for the last day. But coding, if you have not done any practice on coding so far, I suggest you go and do the coding. And to get a list of some of the past asked NQT questions on coding, just check the playlist in the description. We have an entire playlist on all of the NQT, so it's on the description. I think we'll post it on the chat also. And you can get all of the previous year's questions that we have discussed live on the webinar, and we have more than that on the Edyst platform also. So you can log in on the Edyst platform and check those questions out also. Right? Yeah, okay, so thank you everybody for being online. We've got a huge crowd today, so thanks everyone for being online. Please share with your friends if you liked this. We love interacting with students, and the more there are, the better. We hope this was useful for you, so do share with your friends. Even they will be appearing for NQT. It will be beneficial for them. So like the video, share, and please subscribe so that you will get the notifications of any upcoming webinar that we do and any other tutorial that we launch. Thank you so much everybody for being online. Until next time, see you. Log on to the Edyst platform if you have doubts, and I'll see you soon. Thank you everyone, and see you.